6 months ago, I received this brilliant book on my birthday, and as luck would have it, or fate, or coincidence, call it whatever you want, but today I get to meet the author of the book. Hello, Loretta. Thank you for joining me here today.
Hi, Marquita. Thank you for asking me. It's wonderful to be here.
Oh, brilliant. May I start by asking, how would you define artistic voice?
Your voice is really you. It's an amalgam of your character, your life experience, and what it is that you want to express. So I think for a lot of people, that's the hardest part, is realizing that it's not something out there that you have to quantify or qualify, but it's an internal thing, finding your voice.
And how did you find your voice?
Oh, I think I always knew it. I think it's a gift that, I came to the planet with, that I could just always sort of do my own thing. And the things that I find interesting, other people don't, but I do. And I've always gone down that path, which I think is a big part of it. So things that I remember experiencing as a very young child are still come back to me and influence what I look at now and what I'm interested in now.
That makes sense. Have you always been an artist?
I think so. Yes, I think so. My earliest memories are of sitting on the kitchen floor. My mother gave me her button box and a shoelace, and I strung these button necklaces that were spectacular. But I grew up in the 70s, and that was a big time for craft in America, so I learned how to make everything as a very young person. I remember asking for an art set at 8 years old for Christmas from Santa, and I sat at my desk with a window, and for a couple of years I drew and painted the tree outside my window as a child. Nobody told me that. So I think I was always looking to express what I was seeing and feeling.
Definitely. It sounds like polymer clay was definitely the natural progression for you, just because of versatility of the medium.
Yes, I went to art school, majored in what we call metal smithing at the time, jewelry making, and minored in painting. So, and as a jeweler, I was making enamels. That was my thing. So color between the painting and the enameling was always my major impetus. And I was actually looking for a way back into some kind of creative career, raising a little boy and, like that at home, thinking about my life. And I was deciding if I was going to go back into enameling. And then I saw polymer clay on TV, and it was love at first sight. I just knew I could do that. And the color was so immediate, and it was more like painting because the color didn't change. In enameling, it's more like ceramics. The color really changes from raw to cured. So that really appealed to me.
So essentially you were getting more controlled results.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't say control, I would say nuanced. I wanted color being my thing. I wanted to have control of the palette. I wanted to know what it was going to look like and didn't have to go through all the experimentation that you do when you work in enamels. So it was more immediate, more fun therefore.
That's brilliant. I know I don't represent all polymer clay community, but I'm so grateful that you switched to polymer clay.
Yeah.
You're adding so much to this community, especially with your book, which I will ask you about just in a moment. But going back to people who maybe haven't had the easiest time finding their artistic voice, perhaps you do have an advice for them on how they could maybe shift their focus into exploring it?
Yeah, the information is out there. If you start to do a little research, on the internet, you'll find some exercises that you can do to find your own voice. But it really boils down to, what do you like to make? What do you want to make? And what is it that turns you on? So I always tell the story. Think back to when you were a kid, something visual that really enthralled you, like really drew you in. For me, It was when I was 10 years old, and I wanted to help my mother make the Thanksgiving, we have this holiday, Thanksgiving dinner. And one of the things we have is cranberry sauce. So the cranberries are round, red, luscious little things, but they're very tart. You have to cook them with sugar. So as a 10-year-old, I stood there and watched berries turn into jelly, jam. I was gone. I still think about it now and it makes my hair stand up because I love that image so much. So think about those things. What is it that nobody else cares about that? What is it that turns you on? What is it that makes you just breathe differently and feel different? That's your thing. Follow that. That's a clue. And if it's stayed with you your whole life, it's really part of you. So that's the important part to finding your voice. Then how do I express that? What is that feeling that it gives me? How do I express that visually? Art, remember, is a language, but it's nonverbal. So the big part of what the book is about is explaining to people what you mean when you use this shape, this color, this line. What does that mean? What is that communicating to people? What does it say? So once you get those pieces of the puzzle, you can start to put it together. Well, I love little tiny things like acorns and lichen and moss. I love that. So how do I do that? In a way that makes other people feel what I feel when I see it. That's finding your voice.
That's brilliant advice. And going back to people who are beginners in polymer today, so I feel that when you're just discovering medium, you're obviously doing a lot of copying from other people because that's how you discover the properties of the medium, that's how you kind of learn how far you can stretch it. But there's also this concept called fan art and obviously bond copying as well. So how do you feel about this new concept that people call stealing like an artist until you find your own voice?
Stealing Like an Artist is a book that I recommend because one of the things that he explains is if you steal from a lot of people and then amalgamate that information, it becomes your own. That's really how we learn art. We look at something and say, oh, that really moves me, that touches me, but how can I do that in my voice, in my way? That's the difference. To learn to create art, yes, you have to study the work. I mean, we've all been to a museum and seen the kid sitting there on the floor with his sketchbook and the Rembrandt, right? But he's not going to go out there and try and sell that as a Rembrandt. And that's where the problem comes in. If you are taking a workshop and you are learning from a masterful artist and you're learning what they do, fine, but it's education. It's not art, it's copying. You're copying to learn what the master has figured out. Art is figuring it out. So once you've done the workshops, you have to put away all that stuff. I always suggest people go on a diet of other people's work and really delve into their own sketchbooks and photo albums and memories to get their own work, because that's what making art is. It's not making other people's work. It's making your own.
That's brilliant. I think that's a brilliant way of describing it and kind of puts it in perspective and kind of easy to digest. May I ask you, what inspired you to write this book?
Well, I've been in this business now for 25 years, and along the way, I had a whole lot of help. I had people who supported me artistically. I had people who taught me how to be in a craft business. People who hired me to teach or speak or whatever, and I felt a very strong desire to give back to the community. But I didn't know what for a long time. And then I actually dreamt about it. And I woke up in the morning and said, I know what I can do. I can do this. But then it was an 8-year journey to get a publisher. I was almost to the point of saying I'm going to self-publish, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted the marketing, machine, and I wanted it to be this beautiful, which self-published books often aren't, So the last time around, I hit a home run with that publisher, and they just got it right off the bat. And they did a beautiful job, didn't they? There's a lot of information in this book, and I really didn't know how they were going to put it together. But they did a wonderful job, and I'm very, very proud of it.
It's absolutely stunning. You should be proud of it. So do you have any anecdotes from the process of writing the book?
Well, I happen to be extremely lucky in that a couple of my best friends are editors. So I immediately took some classes online in how to write. I had been writing articles for magazines and stuff, but I'm really not a writer. So I had, like I said, it was an 8-year process, so I had an idea of what I was going to say. It got more and more concrete as time went by, so I really did know what I was going to say, and I was teaching it. Even if they wanted a project, I was still teaching design. I was subversive in that way. So my message had become pretty clear what I was going to do. So I would write a chapter and send it to my girlfriend, who would edit it and send it back to me, and I'd rewrite it and send it. So all this happened outside of the publisher's knowledge. So the publisher thought I was a brilliant writer.
Oh, so you literally just handed them the finished book.
Well, and then they edited it. They edited it along the way, but she kept saying, "No, you're brilliant. It really sounds good." And I'm like, you don't know what we went through behind the scenes to get this to sound good. But yeah, it was it's a big process. I have a lot of contacts. I know a lot of people in the jewelry world in America, but it's international. There are 100 international artists working in every medium, and that's exactly what I wanted the book to be about, the breadth of modern jewelry. I did not want it to be focused on one kind of jewelry. So I had to reach out and contact these people and explain to everybody who the heck I was, and why I wanted their work. They're all thrilled, I have to say. They're all thrilled with how they're represented in the book, which is that was my biggest concern, was that they were proud to be in this book. So yeah, it was fun.
No, I bet they all feel honored to be a part of this beautiful book. And who would you say is this book perfect for?
Well, I promoted it to the publisher as being for 3 groups of people. The hobbyist who wants to move up. Okay, so somebody who likes to make things, enjoys making things, but really wants their work to be different. They're really, they've been doing what everybody's doing, and they don't have any artistic background. They don't know. They've taken workshops in technique. They don't know why they're doing what the art teacher is doing, right? So they need the education. So I wanted to put that all in one place. For the teachers, because they should be talking to their students not just about the technique, but about the why. Why did you choose that color? Why did you choose that texture? Why did you why is this asymmetrical? Why? They need the vocabulary to talk about
Sure, because the different types of asymmetric is once you start going into that subject matter, you realize just how much you don't know.
Yes, yeah. So I have heard from a lot of people like myself who teach adult education, and they're very grateful to have it. This has given me a way of talking to my students in order to help them elevate their work. So. Good, right?
And may I ask you, how do you feel about happy accidents? Obviously, most of the great design work is very planned and laid out in a certain way, and it's usually not a happy accident. So how do you feel about happy accidents as a concept?
As a concept, yeah. It happens. I think the most important part is process. And like voice, it's very, like voice, it depends on your personality. So some people are planners and some people are figure it out along the wayers, right? So you have to find out what really works for you, what steps really are necessary to create the kind of work that you want to create. And the big thing I think for younger artists is to then be okay with that. You know? If you're a happy accident type of person, the biggest problem with it, which we call action and response. You do something, you respond to it, you look at it. You do something else, you make another choice. So that's that kind of thing, winging it. The biggest problem is that those people get 70% into the piece and then they just finish it. And a lot of those things shouldn't be finished. They finish it because they've already invested that much time in it. But there was a mistake early on, or a direction that shouldn't have been taken early on, and they can't go back. So they just finish it, and that's what I think is a problem. You shouldn't finish things. You should only finish things that you'll be proud of. Art is it's you. What you make is you out there. So don't sell yourself short. Reach for the stars. Do the best work you can do. And that's the only thing I think about that. Go ahead and whatever your process is, do your process. But be willing to be critical about your own creation and say, is this good enough for me? Not anybody else, but for you.
Makes sense, and that makes me
It's
wonder,
hard.
do you always sketch your design prior to
Well, I
making
do,
it?
but that's my process. I sketch. My workshop is going to be about my process. I don't know if that's part of your thing here, but my workshop here is about my process. And my process is generally, it's inspiration driven. So I've seen something or I've felt something that I want to talk about. So from that step, it goes to color immediately.
Yes.
What are the colors? What are the colors that represent the state that I'm trying to create here? And from that point, then what is it that I'm going to make? Generally a necklace or a brooch. Draw out versions of it. I always do variations. I don't do one design. I believe very strongly, an art teacher told me once, that your first idea is never your best idea. So I do variations. I teach my students to do variations. But then you find the best version. Then along the way, from sketch to reality, things change and you have to adjust. That's where I find the happy accident. Not having a plan, but allowing yourself to be the fluidity in the process.
That's something I will definitely work on during the workshop. The workshop Loretta is referring to is Polymer Week 2024 workshop that she's teaching, and not tomorrow, the day after tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's the one I'm taking. And I actually came here today thinking I know exactly what I'm going to make, and now I'm thinking actually I'm going to do the sketching thing and how cool things can become, because I'm open to trying new things, and obviously that's the reason why people attend the workshops, to see a different perspective, to then see how someone else is using the same medium but maybe applying a different kind of process or use a different tool to create something maybe similar but in a different way.
Yes.
And it's essentially just for broadening your understanding about the medium, seeing how other people interact with it, and also just for hanging out with like-minded people.
Yes. Sharing ideas. Yeah, I'll tell you a story about that. I was vacationing. I was at the beach. It was one of those beaches that has a lot of pebbles on the beach. And I was daydreaming, as we do. We're artists, we daydream. And then I looked down at the sand, and I had created this necklace out of pebbles, beach stones. And something like that. And I looked at it and I thought, oh, I can do these organic shapes. I don't have to just do round shapes, And then I thought, Kathleen Dustin already does that. I can't do that. Kathleen does it. And I was horrified. And I called my best friend and said, this is my problem. What do I do? And she said, but you'll do it your way, not Kathleen's way.
Yeah, there's room for everyone.
There's room for everyone. There's room for everyone, but you have to trust that your path is your path. And at that point in time, that was my path. I just had to do it with my own voice and not copy.
I understand that because it's the same way how nobody owns the rights to a circle shape.
Right. Yes. Yep, exactly.
And tell me about this 6-month mentorship program that you're offering people.
So when the book came out, the book was scheduled to come out in April of 2020, so 1 month after the US shut down for COVID. They had me set up for all kinds of wonderful events. And I was so excited. And then we were shut down and nobody went anywhere or did anything. Well, that was April. I think it was June. I got a phone call and somebody said, "Do you teach online?" And as I've always done, I said, "Yeah, of course I do." And then I had to figure out how to do it. So by September of that year, I was teaching this course to a group in Atlanta, which I live in New York, so virtual was really working. And then I thought, okay, what am I going to do for me now? Now I know how to do it. So I came up with this plan to take the book. Not everybody can learn from a book, you know.
People learn
in different ways. So I thought maybe they'll come to a workshop online. We're all stuck at home anyway. So I teach a 6-month design seminar. It's a whole weekend every month. It goes along with the book. It's like a companion to the book. So we start with inspiration, as I always do, all the nuts and bolts of the elements and principles of design. And then at the very end of it, you have to make a project using your new information, your new knowledge. And the last class is showing the project roundtable and learning how to critique, give in and receive critique, which I think is very important for growth. So that's what we do. And 1 weekend a month I spend with a small group of people, and I've been doing it every month since COVID hit, so for almost 5 years now.
Sounds brilliant.
I know, it was really good. It was, you know what it was? Making lemonade out of lemons.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden, they were going to have this brilliant release of the book and it completely fell apart. And then, well, what can I do now? Pivot.
Exactly, and what a great skill to have, because can you imagine yourself not doing these things anymore? I mean, it's just part of what you do now, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And can you tell people right over there, how can they sign up to your mentorship program?
My website, lorettalam.com, has a page called Events, and all of my workshops, I teach a lot of workshops online now, are on that page. I don't have a schedule yet for next year. I just finished a 5-week-long workshop on finding your voice. And so the 6-month class would start up again probably in February. I just haven't gotten the dates worked out yet. So I also promote the workshops on Instagram, and you can find me there at Loretta Lam. There's also a button from my homepage on my website, and so you can find out what I'm doing and where I'm going to be and how you can get in touch with me.